We said it at the beginning. All of existence says Bismillah, in the name of Allah, through the language of its state. Is that so? What was the first sentence? This blessed word is not only a sign of Islam, but it is also the perpetual chant on the tongue of all beings, spoken through the language of their state. All of creation is constantly and unceasingly chanting this. What was a perpetual chant? It is a zikr, a remembrance that never leaves the tongue. That is, everything is in constant remembrance of God Almighty. Now prove this. We said it at the beginning. All of existence says Bismillah through the language of its state. Indeed, just as if you were to see a single man arrive and forcibly move the entire population of a city to another place and compel them to work on tasks, you would know for certain that this man is not acting in his own name or with his own power. Rather, he is a soldier. He acts in the name of the state. He relies on the power of a sultan. What is being said here? There is an analogy here. What is the main idea, the central point of this analogy? The logic is that if a single man comes and forcibly directs an entire city's population, you know for certain that he is not acting in his own name and with his own power. Rather, he is a soldier, acting in the name of the state, relying on the power of a sultan. So how can one tell if a man, or anything else for that matter, is acting with his own power or with the power of another? This provides the logic for it, doesn't it? For instance, there is a person or a machine. Is it doing this with its own knowledge, with its own power, or is there a great power behind it, and it acts with that power? How can this be understood? Can it be understood? Even if we don't see the power behind it, can we understand whether a great power exists? Yes, we can. How? We can understand it from the work it performs. In short, if it is performing a task that requires a force far beyond its own capacity, it automatically means that it is not acting with its own power. For example, let's say a person can lift 50 kilograms. This is a known limit. But then you see that person lifting 500 kilograms. What does this mean? It means someone else is helping them. Otherwise, they couldn't lift it. There's a very important point of reflection here, isn't there? Is something performing an act itself, or is it merely a veil with someone else acting from behind that veil? How is this understood? The answer: it is understood by comparing the act performed with the one performing it. The analogy here illustrates this. A single man came and forcibly directed the entire population of a city. You know for certain that he is not acting in his own name or with his own power. You know for certain means you know this without a shadow of a doubt. He is not acting with his own name and power. Perhaps he's a soldier, acting in the name of the state, relying on the power of a sultan. This indicates there is a great power behind him. Whether it is the power of an army, a sultan, or another being, it points to a power other than his own. It reveals the existence of a great power behind the veil. Now, we will apply this logic to everything in the universe. For instance, we see an apple on a tree. Superficially, who appears to be making this apple? The tree. But to make this apple, how much ability, how much artistry, how much knowledge is required? A great deal. Does the branch of the tree or the tree itself possess this? Number, therefore, the tree is a veil. The one making it is someone else behind the tree. Or for example, honey. Honey is a perfect creation. Who appears to be making it? The honeybee. But what is needed to make honey? A tremendous intellect, a vast knowledge. Does the bee have this? Number. Therefore, the bee is not making it. The bee is a veil, and someone else is making it from behind. Or consider milk. What a wonderful creation milk is. To make milk, what must one know? One must know the nature of grass and hay, their entire biological and botanical structure down to the cellular level. One must know how to extract milk from them. One must be able to apply that knowledge. It requires immense knowledge and technology. Does a cow possess such knowledge, technology, or intellect? Number. Therefore, the cow is not making it. This principle applies to everything. It is a beautiful method. Or, for example, the chalk on the blackboard. An example we always use. You look at the chalk. The chalk writes on the board, 5 times 5 equals 25. Do you think the chalk knows that 5 times 5 equals 25? It does not. Then can the chalk write that 5 times 5 equals 25? It cannot. So what is happening? Behind the chalk, there is someone who knows that 5 times 5 equals 25, and they are writing with it. Or a pencil, for instance, you see it writing beautifully on paper. Do you think this pencil knows how to write, knows fonts, knows how to construct sentences? A pencil is just a combination of graphite and wood. It has no such intellect or knowledge. So you conclude that there must be a hand guiding it from behind. Behind that hand, there must be a consciousness. You find the scribe, it's like that. If there is a work of art, we must search for the artist responsible for it. We must go all the way to that artist. When we look at the universe, we search for the master artist of the works within it, and we cannot find one within the universe itself. The universe is made of stone, soil, water, and air. None of these possess knowledge. Therefore, behind all of them, there must be a being with infinite knowledge and power who uses and directs them. So what does everything point to more than itself? Everything points to the master, the true actor behind it. Now let's look at the same topic with the following sentences. Likewise, everything acts in the name of God Almighty, so much so that seeds and kernels, like tiny particles, carry huge trees upon their heads. They lift loads as heavy as mountains. For instance, a huge tree. What is a tree? Superficially, it is just a tree. But what is a tree in reality? It is a factory. A factory for what? A fruit factory, an oxygen factory. A factory has a gate for raw materials and a gate for finished products. The raw materials are processed inside through various stages and come out the other side. With a tree, mud and carbon dioxide go in, and fruit comes out the other side. Could all of humanity gather and build an apple factory? A factory that consumes soil and mud as raw material and produces an apple? It's impossible. Therefore, a tree is a miraculous creation. The emergence of this miraculous creation from a seed, from the soil, demonstrates a tremendous knowledge and power. Now, do the soil, the seed, the air, and the water possess this knowledge? Number. This means they are like clear glass, revealing the existence of God Almighty behind them. Glass shows what is behind it, right? These things too, like glass, show God Almighty behind them. Therefore, what are they saying? Thus, every tree says Bismillah. It fills its hands with fruits from the Treasury of Mercy and serves them to us as if on a tray. Let's look at a tree. Let's look at the pomegranate that comes from it. If all the food engineers and chemical engineers gathered, could they make a single pomegranate? They couldn't even make the tree. Could they now make one pomegranate? They cannot. Then who is making the thousands of pomegranates on the branches of that tree? Can the branch do it? What is a branch? It is ultimately a piece of wood. Yet that fruit contains vitamins, minerals, color, scent, and flavor. A magnificent creation. Can this be the work of the branch? It cannot. So while the branch appears to be behind the fruit, in reality, God Almighty is there. Just as a pen appears behind the letter A, the true master is the one holding the pen. Behind all of them is God Almighty, because you cannot establish any cause and effect relationship between them. Every garden says Bismillah. It becomes a cauldron from the kitchen of divine power, in which many diverse and delicious foods are cooked together. When we go to a field, a vineyard, a garden, we find all sorts of delicious foods. There are melons, watermelons, corn, tomatoes, potatoes, eggplants, squash, lettuce, onions, hundreds of types of vegetables and fruits in a garden. And what is this garden? It is black, dry soil. Now these come from this black, dry soil. Can this black, dry soil make corn, or melon, or watermelon? Can it adjust the flavor of the melon? Can it produce its sugar? Where do these come from? So what is it? It is a cauldron from the kitchen of divine power. God Almighty is cooking in that cauldron. Every blessed animal, like the cow, camel, sheep, and goat, says Bismillah. If you were to bring together the Japanese and the Germans and say, build us a machine, we will let this machine roam the mountains and fields all day. Let it eat whatever it finds, grass, weeds, anything. Then let it come back to where we released it, bringing us a cauldron of milk from what it ate. Let it eat, roam, and make milk for us. Could they build that for us? They tried, but apparently they only managed to produce green water. They thought maybe it was missing color, so they added dye, but it was nothing like milk. It just smelled of grass. Look, with all that technology, they would say such a thing is impossible. They would ask, oh, what are you asking of us? But look, the mountains and fields are full of them. So where did they come from? If you cannot build such a device with all your knowledge and technology, then it must have been made by someone with knowledge far greater than yours. Every blessed animal, like the cow, camel, sheep, and goat, says Bismillah. It becomes a fountain of milk from the effulgence of mercy. And in the name of the provider, Ar-Razak, it presents to us a food like the water of life, most delicate and pure. A food like the water of life, Abu Hayat. What does that mean? It is sufficient for life. For instance, a baby, right? In the tradition of the Prophet Muhammad, he recommended breastfeeding exclusively for up to 2 years. He said not to give anything else. Science used to oppose this, but now science says the same thing. They say to give nothing but milk for 2 years. It is sufficient. All of a person's needs are in milk. It is the water of life. If you drink it, your life continues. How is such a thing possible? You can make a beverage, but it wouldn't be the water of life. It might have vitamins or something, but it might not have the quality to sustain life on its own. But milk is not like that. It is sufficient on its own. The silk-soft roots and veins of every plant, tree, and herb say Bismillah. How soft are they? like silk, the softest fabric. And what do these silk soft roots do? They pierce through hard stone and soil. Normally, you pierce something soft with something hard. For instance, you cut steel with a diamond, the hardest mineral. But here, the soft silk-like roots are piercing the hard stone and soil. Could you pierce a rock with a piece of thread? It wouldn't even enter it. But these roots penetrate the rocks. At the tip of each root, there is no drill bit, no steel tip, no diamond tip. You could crush them between two fingers. These delicate roots pierce through hard stone and soil. Logically, to pierce an object, you must apply a force greater than its resistance. How much force can a silk soft root apply? It has no power of its own. So how does it apply it? But a force is being applied to the stone. Therefore, it is said that there is a power other than its own, a knowledge other than its own. Whose knowledge is it? Whose power is it? It is the knowledge and power of God Almighty. So can that root say, I am piercing this with my own power, my own knowledge? It has no knowledge or power to say that. It says, this is being pierced by the power and knowledge of someone other than myself. What does that mean? It means God exists. Through its action, it shows us the existence of God with the language of its state. It pierces the hard stone and soil. It says the name of Allah, the name of the Most Merciful, Ar-Rahman, and everything becomes subservient to it. Consider the Prophet Moses. His staff was a miracle. He would touch a stone with his staff, and it would split into 12 pieces with water gushing out. People would say, this wood could not split this stone even if it were iron. This must be a miracle, and they would begin to believe. Doesn't the same thing happen now? A tree's root hits a stone in the soil, the stone shatters, and the root passes through to drink the water behind it, and the tree begins to grow. Is this any less wondrous than the staff of Moses? It is even more wondrous. One cannot say, I did not see the staff of Moses. If I had, I would have believed. You can see perhaps millions of versions of Moses' staff. You can see something more wondrous in the roots of trees splitting open mountains. The spreading of branches in the air and their bearing of fruit, just like the effortless spreading of those roots in the hard stone and soil, and their bearing of fruit underground, and also the fact that delicate green leaves remain fresh for months against intense heat. All this strikes the materialists with a violent slap, pokes a finger in their blind eyes, and says, even the hardness and heat in which you most trust act under command. Why is a stone hard? Who created the stone? Allah created it. Who willed the stone to be hard? Allah willed it. Therefore the stone's hardness is by His command. It is hard by command, and it becomes soft by command. But towards us it is always hard. Towards the Creator it displays no resistance. It becomes as the Creator wills. Those silk-soft veins, like Prophet Moses, obey the command to strike the stone, and they split the rocks. This means that because the tree's roots say Bismillah and rely on God Almighty, God removes the impassable obstacles of hard stone before them. The moment their connection with God Almighty is cut, the stone becomes hard again, and the obstacles reappear. This is very meaningful. And those paper-thin, delicate leaves, each like a prophet Abraham, recite the verse, O fire, be coolness, and peace against the scorching heat. Let's consider an example from another text about the bee. It says, a tiny inanimate particle or a small animal like a bee does not know the intricate and profound matters of the universal book, such as order and balance. Where is a lifeless particle or a tiny bee? And where is the reading of the profound matters of the clear book held in the hand of the majestic being, who opens, closes, and rolls up the pages of the heavens like the pages of a book? If you are foolish enough to imagine that a particle has an eye capable of reading the fine script of that book, only then can you try to deny its testimony. For example, a scientist discovers a substance in milk. He studies milk and discovers a property of milk. He is given the title of Professor of the Milk Department. This is how professorships and doctorates are earned. You discover something hidden that no one before you could discover. You present it, demonstrate it with experiments, and you get a title. You aren't making milk, you are discovering a pre-existing property within it. If you discover, say, vitamin A in it, which no one knew was there before, you become a professor for finding what already exists. Now, if the cow is making this milk, what title should we give the cow? It has not only found what you couldn't find, but has also produced it, along with all its other properties. If you insist that the cow makes the milk, you fall into this predicament. To make the milk, the cow would have to know what it's doing. You'd have to go ask the cow, "Oh cow, you appear to have made this milk. Tell us how you do it." It would need to be able to explain, "I find these herbs, I eat them, I secrete these enzymes, I do this and that, I put these things inside." Does it have the capacity to explain this? Number, therefore, the cow is not making it. It does not possess such knowledge. The conclusion is this: since everything spiritually says Bismillah and brings us the bounties of Allah in His name, we too must say Bismillah. We must give in the name of Allah, and we must receive in the name of Allah. Therefore, we should not accept from heedless people who do not give in the name of Allah.